Good afternoon or good morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'm Joe Biles. When you think of stewardship in the church, what is it that you think about? If, like me, you grew up outside of the Episcopal Church, odds are probably stewardship's kind of a funny word to you. Growing up in a Southern Baptist church like I did, the word that we used when we talked about financial giving, budgeting, planning was tithing, in reference to the 10% obligation mandated in the book of Leviticus in the Old Testament. The idea that the people of Israel were obliged to devote 10% of their grain, their produce, or their herd and flock to God. They didn't get into, in my Southern Baptist church, what happened if we didn't have a herd and flock, why it was that automatically applied to our cash money. But nevertheless, the 10% obligation was emphasized. And then later on, as I got older and I started attending Churches of Christ for a girl, financial giving was emphasized, but not necessarily the 10% requirement, because that came from the Old Testament. Now that I've been in the Episcopal Church for some time, stewardship as it applies to financial giving, financial planning around church matters is no longer a strange word. I do jokingly call this PBS pledge drive time, but I've come to understand stewardship as being about something more than pledges and budgeting. And stewardship does start in the Old Testament, but it's not in Leviticus. Well, it is in Leviticus, but it doesn't start there. We first see the notion of stewardship in Genesis chapter 1, when on the sixth day of creation, God makes humankind and gives us dominion over the rest of his creation. The same idea is also present in Genesis chapter 2, where God takes Adam, puts him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. We were created to be God's stewards over creation. The job that God gives us to do, it's also implied in one of Jesus' most famous parables, the parable of the wicked tenants, where humans are compared to farmers renting a vineyard from a landlord. God is the landowner, and we're the tenants. We're expected to work the vineyard for God and to bear fruit for him. Obviously, we want to be the good tenants and not the wicked tenants. Another one is the parable of the talents, where Jesus describes another landowner who trusts his property to his servants while he's gone. And he gives them money also to invest on his behalf. And when he returns, he criticizes the investment strategy of the servant that buried his money in the ground and brought no return. Is this story really a story about investment strategies? No. It's not even really a story about money. It's a story about time. Stewardship over time. The way the good servants brought a return on the master's investment and the poor servant did not. And this comes as part of a sequence of Jesus' preaching on kingdom expectation, what we are to do in order to be ready for the coming of the kingdom of God. So we often don't think about stewardship of time in quite the same way that we think of stewardship of money, at least not until we're in a season of our life where maybe our work schedule is more frenetic, or maybe as we're approaching midlife, when we feel that time is getting short. Usually it's that kind of feeling when we're coming up against some kind of perceived deadline that we wish that we had stewarded our time better in the past, whether that's reading the book a little bit sooner before the test, or maybe wishing we'd done a little more distance running before that 5K that we optimistically signed up for. That's the negative angle for thinking about stewardship of time. I want to go back to what Genesis said about us being stewards over God's creation. We usually think about stewardship of stuff, whether that's money or space, this idea of the physical space of God's creation, and time as separate things. But modern physics actually tells us that space and time are part of one four-dimensional thing called space-time. I'm no physicist, and I suspect that most of you are not physicists either. If you are, I would love to talk to you. But I do see this as a window onto a positive angle for looking at stewardship. We can see time, like the rest of creation, as a gift. And our calling as Christians is to use this gift as best we can to serve God and to serve God's people. So when we talk on Sunday, I'm going to share some other thoughts about what stewardship has meant to me during my time as a Christian and as an Episcopalian, and also share more biblical and practical reasons why we should care about stewardship, both of time and of money. But today I want you to take this message away. Stewardship is not something that we have to do. Stewardship is something that we get to do as beloved children of God. So I hope that this week God will bless you and bless those you care about, and I look forward to talking more on Sunday. Thank you.